Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at something really interesting. We've got the details on TATANKA's project. It's an AI-generated Britpop concept album called Another Tuesday Afternoon.
Right.
And wrapped up in that is the story of an artist, Marjani Noor. Our sources, we got the TATANKA webpage itself, the album lyrics, and the narrative about Marjani.
A good mix of materials to dig into.
Exactly. And our mission really is to get under the skin of it all. You know, what's the social commentary? How do personal stories fit in? And what about these inclusive art spaces they talk about?
Yeah, it's fascinating. Using AI, which can seem quite technical for something so human and expressive, Britpop especially has that very specific cultural feel.
It does. I'm really curious to see how those pieces fit together.
Me too. Let's see what we find.
Okay, so Another Tuesday Afternoon. Let's start there. When we say AI generated, what are we actually talking about? It's not like Spotify just made a playlist, is it?
No, not at all. It's more like a collaboration. Think of AI tools. They mentioned ChatGPT, maybe Meta's AI, Refusion, Suno, tools for lyrics, for musical ideas, for actual sounds.
Right.
And then human artists take that raw material, shape it, refine it, probably using something standard like Audacity for the final mix. The AI is like a creative prompt generator almost.
Okay, that makes sense. A tool, not the entire artist.
Exactly.
So the goal with this AI-assisted approach was to capture that very British feel. Ordinary life, a bit nostalgic, but also current.
Yeah, and they describe it as having those classic Britpop elements, you know, the jangly guitars, the organ.
Instantly recognizable sounds.
Right, mixed with lyrics about everyday people, maybe neighbors, and some social observation thrown in, observational poetry and class commentary, I think they called it.
It makes you wonder how the AI handles that, doesn't it? How does it understand something like, say, class commentary or quiet desperation?
Well, presumably it's trained on vast amounts of text and music, so it identifies patterns, themes, but the nuance. That likely comes from the human curation, the selection, the editing.
Right. The website calls the album a mirror, reflecting the strange beauty and quiet desperation of contemporary existence. Quite a claim.
It is. Let's see if the themes live up to it.
Okay, first theme they highlight: working class rituals and emotional suppression. So, grounded in daily life.
The routines, making tea, the pub, the patterns.
You know, the things that make up a day.
And these aren't just habits, are they? The sources suggest they're almost like survival mechanisms, ways to cope.
Cope with what? Change. Uncertainty.
Yeah, perhaps. A way to keep things predictable when other things feel out of control. But the flip side is maybe it makes it harder to be emotionally open, that sort of stiff upper lip idea.
Okay, I see. Like in the Track Biscuit Tin Parade, there's that line about someone sitting in the same pub seat since '73.
Exactly. That paints a picture, doesn't it? Comfort in the familiar, the unchanging.
And then contrast that with Blazers and Blouses. That repeated line, "Don't ask me how I feel."
Oof, yeah. That's powerful. It's like a shield. A refusal, maybe, but also maybe a hint that there's something behind it. A quiet plea, as they put it.
It speaks to that cultural stoicism you sometimes see. Keep calm and carry on, but maybe at a cost.
Well, the album seems to suggest that. There's nobility and endurance, sure, but maybe it limits adaptation, limits dealing with the feelings underneath.
Okay, that leads kind of naturally into the second theme. Modern alienation. Urban, suburban Britain feels very relevant.
Definitely. That sense of being disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people.
The album apparently finds this on commuter trains, at home, even in how we consume media.
It's the paradox, isn't it? We're all connected online, supposedly, but
maybe more lonely.
perhaps, or connected in a shallower way. The album seems to explore that gap between being close physically and feeling distant emotionally.
Like Platform Shoes on Platform 2.
Yeah.
That image, shoulder to shoulder, miles apart. Or like Islands in the Dark. It really captures that feeling on a crowded commute. You're packed in, but everyone's in their own world.
If it's not just out in public, Wallpaper Heart takes it into the home.
Right. The description mentions steam rises, silence stays. The routine's there, making tea again, but the connection isn't.
That contrast between the mundane, the everyday, and the emotional void, that's quite striking. It shows how easily things can drift apart, even in relationships.
And then there's Auntie Says Relax. This one brings in the media angle.
Ah, yeah, the line, "Good morning, America, you're all I've got."
Wow, that says a lot about maybe using media as a stand-in for, well, real connection.
Could be passive consumption instead of active engagement with people. It's another layer of that modern alienation theme.
Okay, third theme, This one's about performance. The identity theater of performative modern life.
Right, how we present ourselves in clubs, at work, the roles we play.
Is it authentic? Or is it an act?
That's the question it seems to pose, like in Designer Sins.
Which they call a satire of hookup culture. The lyric, "Everyone's someone they're not tonight."
Pretty direct. Points to that superficiality, the masks people wear in certain social scenes.
And then Pinstripe Smile shifts it to the workplace, maybe. Social climbing, adopting a persona.
Yeah, the line about the business cards. With letters that don't spell out you.
Ouch. That feeling of losing yourself to fit in or get ahead.
But it's not all negative, is it? There's lippy boys and lipstick.
Right, that seems different. More vulnerable. Self-presentation as like exploring identity, not hiding it.
Exactly. That question, who's that stranger in the mirror tonight? It sounds more like searching, trying to find your truth, rather than just putting on a show for others.
So it shows that performance isn't always fake. Sometimes it's part of figuring out who you are.
Precisely. A more nuanced take.
Okay, so we have these themes, rituals, alienation, performance, all explored through this AI Britpop lens. It's already a lot to chew on.
Definitely.
But then there's this whole other layer, the story of Marjani Noor and Orchestra Americana.
Yes, and this brings a really powerful human element directly into the frame. It's not just abstract themes anymore.
Tell us about Marjani. The background is quite specific.
Yeah, a transgender artist, parents were Somali refugees, grew up in Luton, so navigating multiple identities right from the start.
And her music reflected that. The track, Cups of Tea in a War-Zone Kitchen, the title alone is evocative.
It sounds like it, blending everyday sounds with these deeper cultural, political layers, a really unique voice.
And that voice caught TATANKA's attention.
Which led her to Orchestra Americana. And they don't just call it a band, it's an ensemble, a movement even.
What makes it different?
The emphasis seems to be on radical inclusivity. Cross-genre, yes, but also co-composition. Everyone's experience, their lived reality is valued and feeds into the music itself.
So not just performing pre-written parts.
Apparently not. It sounds much more collaborative and, well, democratic in a way.
The TATANKA site said it was a sanctuary of transformation for Marjani, a place where her specific background wasn't just accepted, but
celebrated, woven into the fabric of the art. Her experiences as a trans woman from a refugee background became central.
And her contribution was significant. She worked on a reimagining of the original album.
Yes, Blurry Tuesdays reimagined. Her track was Platform 2, 𝗧𝗔𝗧 in C minor.
𝗧𝗔𝗧𝗔𝗓, referencing South Asian gender identity, often third gender. Interesting connection.
Right. And the description sounds incredible. Spoken word prayers, train sounds, connecting back to that alienation theme, distorted out samples, a real blend of her heritage and the album's themes.
It sounds deeply personal.
Very. And the impact. There's that story, isn't there, about the young black trans woman?
Yeah, who told Marjani after a show, "You made it sound like I exist."
Just, wow. That really underscores the power of art, doesn't it? Representation matters. Seeing yourself, hearing yourself reflected back.
It wasn't just music, it was validation, visibility.
Absolutely. And Marjani's journey, finding her voice in this collective, it connects back so strongly to the album's themes. Identity, alienation, finding authenticity, but in a lived, real way.
It really highlights that idea of music is more than entertainment. It is reclamation.
Mm-hmm. And the crucial role of these inclusive art spaces, spaces that don't just tolerate difference, but actively honor it, creating this lived polyphony, as they call it.
A beautiful phrase. Orchestra Americana wasn't just giving her a platform. It was fostering an environment where her truth could flourish.
Yeah, it shows what real diversity in the arts can look like. Not just box ticking, but genuinely valuing and amplifying different perspectives shaped by different lives.
So let's try and wrap this up. We've journeyed through another Tuesday afternoon, this AI-aided look at British life, the routines, the loneliness, the performances.
Right, those core themes running through it.
And then we encountered Marjani Noor's story and how Orchestra Americana provided this space for authentic expression and connection.
It's this really compelling mix, isn't it? Cutting-edge tech exploring very human, sometimes uncomfortable truths. And alongside that, a powerful example of community and art making a real difference.
The AI generates the reflection, perhaps, but the human stories give it depth and resonance.
Well put. The technology meets the testimony, in a way.
It definitely leaves you thinking about those murky reflections, as the source called them. How do these themes play out in our own lives? You know, the balance between routine and connection, authenticity and performance.
Yeah, how do our own daily patterns shape us? And where do we find or how do we create those spaces for genuine connection in what can feel like quite an isolating world sometimes?
And maybe, ultimately, it reminds us just how vital art can be. Not just AI-generated concepts, but art in all its forms, how it can give a voice to people often overlook and build those crucial spaces where everyone feels like, well, like they exist.
A powerful thought to end on. The potential of art to create belonging.